What's up guys, it's Terrence from Too Fresh Fishing and Too Fresh Custom Baits. Today is January 1st, 2019 and it is officially my first video for my video series on creating custom soft baits. In today's video we will be recreating one of our 5-inch paddle tail swim baits with the blood core. Well, this is actually a chartreuse core, but for today's video we will be using a red blood core on a zoom color called South African Special, which is a black colorant with purple, red, gold, and blue glitter. So the body will be South African Special, and our core line, where you see the chartreuse here, will be done in red. I just received some eyes in today, so I'll be adding some red and gold eyes with a silver outside for our swim baits, and hopefully everything turns out good. So let's jump into it. Okay guys, for the 5-inch swim bait we will be using 6.5 millimeter eyes, and this will be the color that we're going to use to match our red core or bloodline for the swim bait. These are new eyes that I have, and these are actually glass eyes or plastic eyes. Let me say, not say glass, but plastic eyes, which are hard plastic, whereas my last ones that I originally used for this one is actually a soft plastic. So the preparation that's involved in getting your eyes into your mold are a little bit different. I've been playing around with them so that we can cut down on time to make sure that these eyes can get locked in prior to me starting to record, so it won't really be too long of a process with me doing it. I'll show you guys one I guess one run of me actually putting these eyes in, and usually I would use the Loctite adhesive for putting the eyes on, but this is what's starting to happen. It's starting to clog up on me and making it real hard for me to be able to consistently use it for putting the eyes in. So I've went with Elmer's. Elmer's gives me a good mist every time, and I'm not having to worry about clogs when it comes to actually using it for the application of putting the eyes on. So with that being said, let's jump into it. Okay guys, so the first thing that I want to do is insert my eyes into the swim bait mold. And there, with the molds, you have a left side and you have a right side. So you're going to have to insert your eyes as well as your core lines on both sides. So I've already inserted the eyes on this side, and so now I'm going to be inserting the eyes in the right side of the swim bait. So I'll be getting my, just a Senko that I made, and just to put a little mist on, and then I'm going to just dab it in here. And what that'll allow is for me to have a little bit of tack on it, so once the eyes meets or makes contact with it, it'll give it a little bit of stick versus allowing it just to drop off. Now, one thing that I have found is that with these plastic eyes, the hard plastic, they don't stick really good. And this is my first time using them, so y'all bear with me and just let's see how it comes out. Oops, hit the camera. Okay, so now there is tack on the back of the eye, which allows it to stick onto your bait when you're using it, or your swim bait or your jerk bait or whatever it is that you're actually doing. But since we're going to be utilizing the method of putting the eyes inside of the mold, we really don't need the tack or the glue on the back side. So I'm going to try to carefully manipulate this to get it into the eye socket. And there we go. So that's one, and I'm going to put the second one in. I'm liking the reflective backing on this. And then we have the second one in. And all I'm doing is sitting it in and kind of rubbing my hand across the mold in order to slide it into the slot and scrape it off of my finger, and then just using my nail to push it down in. And so we have one here, and one here. And when you stand it up, because your mold's going to have to be stood up when it's shot, you notice that they're not falling out, and that's the importance of having the adhesive. And then we have one here, and one here. Okay guys, so now that we have the eyes in, our second task is going to be to create our bloodlines that are going to go into our individual left and right slots on our swim bait. I have some bloodlines, but I don't have, or core lines, but I don't have any red core lines. So we shall be creating the red core lines. So I'm going to go ahead and move these out of the way and get my plastics set up so that we can start out with the creation of our core lines. Okay guys, so we are in the process of making our mix for our core lines. We're looking for a blood red, so I'm gonna add about 8 to 10 drops. I've already added 4 drops. I'm gonna add about 8 to 10 more drops just to see how much red we get with this. And as you guys can see, it's starting to redden up. Once we take it in and we nuke it, this color will get a little bit darker, but we do want darker. I at least want the same color or close to the color that you see on the Pyrex writing. So right now we have a kind of a pinkish red. So I'm still going to add a little bit more red in. So we'll go with about 5 more drops. Well, I think I'm going over that. Yeah, now we're getting where we want to be at. And I think that this should be good enough. I'm pretty satisfied with this. Now, what I was trying to contemplate on was whether or not I would want it to add any flakes to it. And I think because we're going to use a black plastic for our body color, I don't want to add any black flake into the red, just because I want the red to be seen and I don't want any of the black flake to darken up the color. So we're gonna nuke this for about 3 minutes to see where we are. We're trying to get it to at least 340 degrees here, and then I'll be back. Okay guys, while the plastic is cooking, I just want to kind of point out that when you're utilizing this plastic, these fumes are very, very, very strong. So I advise utilizing some type of masking for ventilation for yourself. I have a 3M mask that is pretty good, but most of the time, since I'm in my garage doing this, I utilize my fan, which is to the left of me, and I allow it to blow to the right, where I have my garage door almost 75% open, and I'm not in direct contact with the fumes while I'm shooting my plastics. But this is a very important step, guys. You do not want to be breathing in these fumes. On the site, depending on what manufacturer you're using, a lot of them say that the fumes aren't toxic, but they are loud. I can tell you from experience that I've gotten nauseated, headache from being around them without the proper ventilation. So be smart, guys. You don't want to put yourself in a dangerous or potentially dangerous situation by ingesting these fumes. Okay guys, so we're almost cooked up. I've taken it out of the microwave just so I can get a temperature reading here. And we're shooting for a temperature of 340, at least 350 degrees. And right now we're at 314, so we're almost there. So we're at 350, it's 360 degrees. You at least need to be at 350 degrees for your plastisol bonding to take effect. You want to make sure that you don't get up into the 400s because there's a potential for you to burn your plastics, and right now we're at 358. So I'm going to sit this back into the microwave for just a moment and we're good to go on that. Guys, this is also a very detrimental part of doing your plastics. You really need to be able to know what temperatures you're at, especially for when you're doing laminates, which is basically doing two colors at one time using your injectors. You need to be able to properly measure what temperature your plastisol is at so you'll know that you're correctly shooting to decrease the chances of bleeding or improper shooting. So now that we have the temperature that we want to shoot at, what we need to do now is grab our mold, clamp it down, and then make preparations for us to shoot our coreline colors. Always wear gloves, guys, and because I'm shooting for the first time and I'm only going to be using one injector, I'm not going to use my heat resistance gloves, but I do have them. It's very important to have them, very important to use them, especially when you start doing your primary shooting, because this plastic is very hot and it can definitely burn the heck out of you. So just be careful, guys. Okay, so we're going to be utilizing a 6-inch injector, and we're going to be grabbing our hot plastic and we're going to be shooting into the mold. Okay guys, so I'm going to mix the plastic up just a little bit more, and then let me bring this over so you guys can see. And what I'm basically going to do is just go down into my plastic, suck up some of the plastic, making sure that I don't grab any air, hold it to allow the plastic to stop dripping so much, and then utilize the regular pressure of my hand to shoot down in the core. Once I feel it stop, hold it there for a little bit. If you push too hard, you can force your plastic to come out of the sides, and that's not what you want. Once you're done, you want to top off, which means finish filling up the sprue hole to allow less air to come in. And that sometimes, depending on what you're shooting, you might want to add more after you first fill it up. You might want to have to go back, because once the plastic starts to harden or starts to cure or set up, it will suck air in and this will go down, so you might have to top it off again. So we're just going to allow this to set up. And if you notice, I only used a little bit in order to shoot all of my cavities, and I think it might be about 12 to 16 cavities on the inside. And just to show you how quick this stuff sets up, it's been less than a minute and I can already take it off. You notice that there isn't any on the glove, but you still want to be very careful when you're doing this because it is still hot. After you finish doing this, you do need to clear out your injector. On the injector that I have, you basically just turn the head, push out, and here's your extra plastic. Any plastic that you shoot can be reused, which is an awesome thing, because you don't waste plastic until you get into doing laminates, because you're blending plastic colors together, and that means you cannot separate those plastics in order to use them again. You would have to basically create another custom color with the combined colors when you're done if you want to reuse that. Okay guys, so time has elapsed and we should be able to open the mold up and see how our core lines came out. Look at this. I can show you a mistake that I made and the mistake was not heating up my plastic again before I shot, because the temperature cooled down. And when the temperature cools down, what happens is the plastic starts to solidify, and it's no longer easy for it to go down into the sprue hole, into the cavities, and completely fill up all of your cavities. So what I have is completed, and then right at the bottom you'll notice I have some that didn't completely shoot, which is no problem because I'm not using them at all, and this was just for a tester. But normally I would reheat back up to make sure I'm at 340, and then I'd reshoot. But this is exactly what I wanted, and each one of these are your core lines. These will be placed inside of your mold here to create the outer core line that you see here. And once you put the core line in, you'll then take your primary color and you'll shoot that in at a higher temperature, which will allow it to fuse with the core line as well as fuse with the eyes that you have in. So I'm going to get these inserted. You know what? I'm going to actually show you guys how I insert them. So right here on the sprue connections, you're just going to basically pull them off. So you need 3 for each side, which is a total of 6. And so here we have 6. And all you're going to do is lay each one in and push it into place. Lay your next one in. And push it into place. And lay your final one in and push it down into place. And this is going to give you a one side completely done. And then you'll have to go over to your next side and repeat the process. And now you have the right side of your mold and the left side. And if you notice, I have an eye on my hand, which slipped from right here. And I need to slide it back in there and make sure that it's in. And see, the hard plastics are a little bit tougher to deal with than soft ones are with the eyes, so bear with me on this. There we go. Alright, so note to be taken on this: when you're dealing with your harder eyes, because they fit in loosely and they have the potential to slide out, when you're standing your molds up, you have to make sure that you're not clanking them against each other, or you can run the chances of one of your eyes falling out and you not knowing. So what I'm going to do now is try to carefully join these two together without causing anything to fall out of place. And then I'm going to put my clamps in. And then I'll place it back down on the table. Now if you can see, and I don't know if you can, so I'm going to hold it up. I have top right here. The top means that this is going to be the top of the swim bait. When you're shooting regular plastics, usually you're going to have if you're using dual, which is one color, or laminates where you're using one color at the bottom, one color at the top, and you're going to use your dual injector, and you're going to utilize this blending block in order to put a color. Most times you sit it on like this, and one half will be here, one half will be here. With your swim baits sit in the mold like this instead of like this, so you have to make sure that you turn your blending block this way, and you put your top color on one side and your bottom color, or vice versa if it's flipped around. You do it that way to stop from having, instead of blended here, you have it blended one side and the other side, which is not what you want. And that's what happened to me on my first run, because I just did not know. So now what we need to do is we need to make our secondary or our primary color for the body, which is going to be the South African Special with the glitter in it. So I'll be right back. Okay guys, we're back. And now I am actually, for the body, notice that we are at 1 cup of plastic. And so now our body color is going to be black. So, oops, I got a lot of red on me. All right, so let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10, 11, 12. We'll start off with about 12 drops just to see how much of a black we get. And as you can tell, we're kinda on the gray side still, but we're a little bit more gray than we are black. But keep in mind that it's actually going to get darker once we start cooking it. But I do still want to add just a little bit more, a couple of more drops of black in. And I don't know where this red came from on the top of this, but we got it off. All right, so I'm gonna add 1, 2, 3, and 4 more drops of black. Make sure, guys, that when you're using your colors that you mix your colors up prior to adding them to your plastics. Very, 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 very important. Okay, I think we're good now with the black that we have. And let me show you guys how it looks here. So I think when that cooks up, we should be really good to go here. And now what I'm going to do, since we're doing swim baits, is I'm going to add softener to it because it needs softener. So for a 1 cup, it's usually a half a teaspoon. So I have a 1/4 teaspoon here. So I'm going to add 2 of these. And just a smidge more for good measures. And this is going to allow the bait to be a little bit softer and increase that action in the tail. And I'm going to stir it up. And then what I'm also going to add, and which I really don't add to mine because the plastic that I'm using is not one that I really need it for, but I'm going to put in just a little bit of heat stabilizer just in case when I'm shooting I accidentally heat it up too much. This will help prevent it from burning and discoloring, even though you really won't see it because it's black. And now that I'm shooting a cup, we were right at 3 minutes and 30 seconds, I think, for the 2/3 cup. So I'm going to shoot this at about 4 minutes. I'm going to 3:45, 4 minutes, and I'll be back and we'll see how it looks. Okay guys, while I'm heating up this black, I need to go back because I just noticed that I left the hook slide adapters out of my mold. So these are very important if you want to have hook slots in your bait. And for these particular ones, I do want to have hook slots. So there's a slot in here that you insert this into, and it sits right in place and it creates the hook slot. And then you go back through the process of placing your molds back together again. And setting it back up for shooting the plastic. And we should be about done now. So thought my camera was messing up on me. So let me get some gloves on just to check and see where we are as far as temperature wise goes. And then we're gonna get the glitter added. All right. So this is what happens when you're not at your core temperature yet. This is what you get. Once you get to your core temperature that you want, this will completely liquefy. And we're at 309 right now. So we need to pop this back in and see if we can get that temperature up a little bit higher. All right, let's see where we are. Okay, so now we're getting up there and we're at 318. We're at 355 now. 356, 355, which means now we're at a good point. And if you notice, it runs right off now. And now it went back on me again, and it was at custom. Okay, so we're at 338, 357. So we're where we need to be at as far as temp wise, and we're probably higher than that, but the thermometer is tripping right now. So we're good to go, and we're able to add our glitter now. Okay, so for this solution or this makeup, we need to add a 1/4 teaspoon of blue, a 1/4 teaspoon of red, quarter teaspoon of gold. Yeah, guys, you will definitely have a lot of glitter all over everywhere doing this, so get ready for it to be everywhere in the house. And then last but not least, we're going to do a 1/4 teaspoon of purple, and for this I'm using the 0.40 grape, which has an awesome color to it. And once we're done, you want to make sure that you blend. Look at that. Can you guys see that? Awesome color. All right, so we've gotten this blended. We're gonna throw it back into the microwave, bring the heat back up, and then we're gonna go ahead and shoot. Be right back. We're at 343 now, guys. So that's exactly where we want to be. So now that we've reached the temp that we want to be at, we're going to now utilize a 10-inch injector just to allow us to get more plastic in, because we do have to shoot 3 cavities. So process is still going to be the same. We're going to inject up our plastic, bring it to the cavity, push down on it until you feel it stop, hold it for just a little bit, go to your next cavity, inject, hold a little bit, Don't put too much pressure on it. Come out to your last one, inject, hold your pressure, and then top off your sprues for all three. The excess plastic you don't worry about, because we're shooting one color, which means anything that's excess that runs along the side of your mold can be placed back into the container and reused again. So you're never going to waste color. As long as you're doing one color, you won't waste color. And because this is just for test purposes, I'm going to go ahead and take this out and put it back in. And I'd like to kind of try to show you where, when I said that the air would start to suck in, you see that? So what I'm going to do for that is just take my plastic and top it off again, just to make sure. You don't have to put all that on there, but I'm just making sure, just for the purposes of doing this. I'm going to take my leftovers and I'm going to inject them back in, only because we're just doing this for a test. If I was actually doing another run, I would not have put that in here. I would have taken it and put it in an extra glass, just so I can use it for remelts, because this is still hot, that's not hot, and I would have to remelt and cut that if I wanted to utilize it again. So we're going to allow this to dry, and then we're going to open it up and see what we have. Now, usually when you're dealing with coreline or swim baits in general, you usually have to clear dip your bait once you're done, in order to make sure that you seal the eyes on the inside. But since this mold allows you to sit your eyes inside in the bloodline on the inside of the mold, once you add your plastic to it, it will adhere to the bloodline as well as the eyes, and there's really no need to do a clear coat. You can clear coat if you want to, but if you clear coat, take note that clear coating is going to seal your slit. And what I usually do if I do clear coat is I get an X-Acto knife and I pierce the slit of the clear coat to open it back up, and then you're good to go. All right, so we should be good to go on this. So we're gonna take this extra plastic and just set it to the side, just for good measures. And we're going to take off our molds loose and see what we have, guys. And I thank you in advance for bearing with me. This, like I said, is my first video, so I'm trying to give back as much as the guys who I've learned from have given me. Now, so what I can tell you is that they came out amazing, but I can see that one of the eyes did not attach, which means I'm going to have to glue that one on. So what I'm going to do is separate them and take one of the ones that the eye did come out. Look on the other side, the eye is awesome. This is just extra from the sprue, so you can clip that, take your hook slide out, and look at that. Freaking awesome. That's a beautiful bait. Now, one thing that you will notice is that here's our core color. Once it hits that black, you see how it darkens up? That's the reason that I didn't want to add the black flake to it, to make sure that I didn't darken it any more than I already knew it would. Okay guys, I have taken the baits out of the mold, and I must say that I am super happy with what we have here. Those colors look phenomenal to me. I'm loving the eyes. I'm loving the contrast on both sides. I'm loving the contrast in the bloodline and the main body. We have our hook slot area. You can really see the glitter. The bass won't see that, but I'm super happy. Okay guys, we have our plastic heated up for our clear dip and we are ready to go. So when you're doing your clear dip, you don't want to clear dip the entire swim bait. You basically want to come down to right at the tip of where your tail starts so that it doesn't interfere with the action of the tail. And what I'm going to do for this is, since I already have my hook slot created, I don't want to completely cover the entire bait to the tail as you normally would. What I'm going to do is clear coat right to where the gills stop, just so I can easily slip back open the hook slot. So I'm going to dip and come out. I'm going to let it drain off a little bit. And I'm only doing this because I don't want to lose the eyes on this particular bunch. But if I was to shoot again, I would not put clear coat on it. I would allow it to, or I would utilize adhesive to make sure that the eyes don't come out. But it didn't work for me this time, so I'm just gonna quick clear dip. Just to lock them in. And if you look, you will notice that right at the top it still joins. So I'll wait until that dries and I'll get an X-Acto knife and I'll clip that, and then we'll be done. All right. And this is what we have, guys. Very nice coat. Now the eyes are locked in. This excess you can clip off with your nails or get an X-Acto knife and clip that off. Doesn't affect the movement of the tail, so you still have very good action on the tail. Now I'll use an X-Acto knife to go right at the bottom and cut the hook slot again, just so I can reopen it. So you're just basically going right in here and you're cutting just a thin layer here, and it'll open back up, and then you'll retain your hook slot layer here. But I think overall that came out pretty good, guys. Alright guys, we're gonna wrap it up. I thank you for taking the time to check out my video. I hope that you like it. Leave some comments and suggestions or feedback in the comment section below, and I'll get back at you at another time with another video. Look at that color though. Freaking awesome. And I'll add a photo in the end just so you can see how it looks, because I know the lighting from this ring light may not be the best. So I'll take a photo and I'll add it. Okay guys, I just wanted to say thank you again for tuning in to this video and for actually taking the time to look through the whole video. I hope that I was able to teach you guys something. I really learned a lot myself along the way dealing with this. One thing I do know is that I'm going to have to find a solution for the eyes not adhering when I shoot my plastic in to the mold. The softer plastic eyes do a lot better when it comes to adhering. So if any of you guys have suggestions on what I can do in order to get the hard plastic eyes to adhere more when I shoot, leave me some comments or suggestions down in the comment box below. Thank you. Make sure that if you haven't already, subscribe, hit like on the video if you like it. It helps me to create more content for you guys, and I'm just starting out with doing this type of series, and I really want to continue doing this because it helps me learn a lot more. Guys, I really thank you. Happy New Year for everybody who's on the channel, and I hope everybody's having a blessed year, and I'll see you later. Remember that life is too fresh to not go fishing, so grab somebody, take them out, give them a too fresh experience, and allow them to enjoy what we enjoy when we go out and we have fun. Have a good one, guys. See you later.